The AI man of India, the data center man of India, the Sunil Gupta. Tell us where Yotta sits in the entire chain. What happens in the background when I'm doing a small ChatGPT task, for example?
Any and every internet or digital transaction we are doing, हम consume किस चीज़ पे कर रहे हैं?
Why does India need to build its own data centers? When you have alternatives like AWS or Azure or GCP, what is it that people don't get?
That if you are putting the most critical applications of your country, whether it is government applications which are serving citizens or whether it is enterprise applications, if you are putting it in the hands of operators who might not be necessarily only following the laws of the land, but who also are accountable to the laws of a different land altogether and who are not completely into your jurisdiction, your control, they may have an ability to just kill your operation. Sovereignty definition we all have to adopt.
You committed to deploying 20,000 plus of NVIDIA's latest GPUs. That's insane.
Now this is a supercomputer which is by the way has been used to train a ChatGPT model.
Okay.
The Geminis, the Cloud, all these great models we are using, all these models were trained only when they had access to the thousands of these latest machines. I told you that India is creating and consuming 20% of world's data.
Yeah. I'm a banker sitting here in Mumbai. I'm using that service provider to store my data.
Yeah.
Should I be sleepless? This could not have been more unfiltered than what we saw. You heard the man speak, and you also know what opportunity India has ahead of us as we move very quickly in the direction of being sovereign, as we move very quickly to be one of the leaders in the AI space and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Sunny Shah Show. There is a silent war going on in India right now. I'm talking about the acceleration towards artificial intelligence and the machines that would run. So when you look at AI as a technology, very few people amongst us are aware that there are actually physical machines and a lot of hardware that goes behind to make sure this kind of computing power is created. I am extremely blessed to have the data center man of India, and now known as the artificial intelligence man of India, somebody who is pioneering creation of sovereign data centers in India, and somebody who is working towards not just progressing his company, but actually an industry on the basis of which the India story when it comes to AI is going to grow exponentially. We are blessed to have Mr. Sunil Gupta, CEO of Yotta, with us on the show. Sunil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sunny. Thanks for having me here.
The pleasure is all mine, sir. I have a lot of excitement as I plan to spend this hour with you, trying to learn more about what you do and what India can get from the story that you're trying to build.
Sure.
But before we get in there, right?
Yeah.
Before Yotta, before the data center man of India that you are coined as, tell us how it all started for you. What's the story of Sunil Gupta before you became the man that we are looking at?
Great. I tell you that late 99 is when internet started coming in our lives globally and in India, and all the visible symbols of internet, you use a device like a laptop or a mobile to consume internet. Then there is a network like a 3G, 4G, 5G nowadays, or a broadband network. And at the back end, there is the infrastructure where the computing is happening, where your websites and content is hosted. All of these started appearing because the internet appeared. When the dot-com boom busted in 2001, many people thought that even the underlying industry which was getting developed, the networks, the data center, even they are doomed and they are not going to be there anymore. But that was the time when in India another wave was coming, which was the telecom sector and the IT sector was getting privatized from the government owned bodies like BSNL and MTNL and VSNL. Private players were given licenses that they can put up broadband networks in India, and that is where the revolution led by people like Reliance Infocom of those days, Mr. Ambani, Airtel, Vodafone, and many, many other players who started putting fiber across the length and breadth of the country. I joined Reliance as one of the early employees to Mr. Ambani at that time as a telecom, as a network product manager, as a young product manager. And when I joined, it was like a, get a chance of the lifetime. You are meeting Mr. Ambani in his boardroom in Maker Chamber 4. And he says, Sunil, there will be veterans and veterans who will be here to drive the network business. And that is something which obviously country requires. But there's something equally or maybe more important, which will be like a data refinery. Just like you have an oil refinery in his language, there'll be a data refinery where data will be processed and analyzed, and then it will be going through the telecom pipes to people's homes. And you should be working and driving that refinery because there are not many people who can actually do that, and young people like you should be driving that. And that is what I always feel myself fortunate that that's how my entry into data center happened. India's data center story actually was more driven from enterprises because World Trade Center happened in 2001, and at that time there was an equally big risk that some of the critical buildings like stock exchanges in India may also be hit at that time. Mm-hmm. So the banks, the stock exchanges felt the need of immediately creating disaster recovery sites, right, into some third-party locations. And some of these factors actually driven, and I remember even at that time, RBI came with a mandate to the various public sector banks that they have to adopt core banking, right? They cannot do manual work. And if there's a core banking required, you can use a software from somebody like Infosys, right? But you still need a large-scale data center. And that is something nobody could have done in few weeks. You need like a 2 years period to build data centers. So these were the factors which resulted into lots of public sector banks, lots of enterprises shifting their IT systems into third-party data centers. And because I was running the data centers in Reliance at that time, for 10 years I was running in, we ended up, I remember at that time, hosting some of the largest banks of the country into our data centers. And of course, with time we saw a lot of manufacturing companies, lots of government bodies, they started putting in because digitalization wave was also gradually coming into the country. On other side, the network wave was coming in, the broadband was getting deployed, the 3G and 4G was coming in and all this stuff. And 2009-10 is the time when e-commerce started appearing on the scene. The Flipkarts came, the Snapdeals came, Amazon had come on the word scene and all this stuff, and cloud had come on the word scene. And these things again required data center capacity on a much larger scale. So we ended up scaling our data center capacities. This was also the time when Reliance, that particular company, got into a little weather. It had changed hands from the elder brother to the younger brother. And I got an opportunity to join another company called NetMagic, which was a smaller company. It was a fantastic, bright startup with good people, but was not scaling up, and the investors wanted to exit. And they said to the founder that if you really want to have a strategic acquisition of yourself, or you want to get listed, get somebody from who has done this on a much larger scale, let him run the show, and maybe then we can go for acquisition. And so early 2010, I joined NetMagic, and the way we had planned out, thankfully things worked out. And in July 12, the entity of Japan acquired NetMagic.
Interesting.
And again, certain things, it's like you say that you do certain things and the whole nature starts supporting you. That is also the time when the e-commerce wave started becoming bigger. RBI came with one more mandate, which is the financial data of the Indian citizens cannot be hosted outside country. It has to be hosted mandatorily in India itself. So not only the banks, but also the payment companies, right, or NBFCs, everybody will have to host the financial data in the country itself. So the cloud operators like Amazon or Azure or Google, they realized that if they want to serve this big market called India, they cannot afford to do it from their cloud regions in Singapore or Hong Kong or Australia. They will have to put up their cloud regions in India itself. And that, I always say, is the turning point in Indian data center industry, that the cloud operators decided to start their cloud regions in India. Now cloud operators, when they build at huge scale. So I remember at that time, as an industry, we used to build a data center of maybe a 50,000 square feet building, a 4 megawatt power, and that capacity we used to, fully sell maybe over 4 years. A single hyperscaler came and he started talking about double that capacity wanted to take just to test the market. That was the scale they were talking about, and the real requirement was far, far bigger. So that is something where, because we were acquired by entity, so we had access to capital, we had access to global relationships of entity. This hyperscaler said, okay, we'll give you a contract. Can you build a large data center for us, right, in Mumbai? Because Mumbai was the place where everybody wanted to be in because of various factors. And that is the time when I built up, in fact, that is the time when I got in touch with Mr. Hirandandani. I stayed in their campus for ages, for 20 years, and everybody in their management is like a close friend. We are part of same social community. I was looking for a space in Mumbai to build data center, and they say, why are you looking around in Mumbai? We are here to give you. And that's how we started the iconic, the Chandivali data center campus of entity at that time. We built the first building. It was really I would say, milestone time in Indian DC industry, because first time somebody had created a very large data center of that time of 20 megawatt.
Sure.
And we hosted hyperscalers. One hyperscaler came, within 6 months the second came, within 6 months the third came. We had some large banks coming in. At that time, even the Chinese operators were very, very active. So we had Tencent coming in, Alibaba coming in, players like that. And by the time we delivered that, so basically, because you had these global customers, you ended up learning all the best global practices, because they said, we'll pay you well, but we will demand every single good specification and quality which we expect, let's say, from a mature market like US. I think the entire industry as a whole learned from that exercise. What is scale, what is quality, what is redundancy, what is resiliency. We learned like anything. And that is the starting point which continues till today. A data center industry which was just about 200 megawatt. We measure our data center capacity in power terms and not in square feet terms. The whole industry, which was just about 200 megawatt in 2016-17, today has become almost 1.6 gigawatt. Like in 7-8 years, industry has become 8 times bigger. And the way digital adoption has happening, the way we are creating and consuming content all the time. We are 1 billion people carrying smartphones right now in India. The way we use UPI, that every single 10 rupees we want to pay through UPIs, there's no limit to how much digitization will come in our life, and accordingly how much infrastructure had to be built. AI has come on the top of that. And while we were thinking industry will become 3 gigawatt by 2030, which means double, triple itself, now we all are feeling this industry will become almost like 7-8 gigawatt, which means like more than 10 times what it is today. So around 2019 or 2018 end is something, when I was in the mid of all these trends, is when the thought started coming in that this business, while on the face of it we are consuming digital or mobile, but the back end, this business is all about infrastructure. Besides our technology capabilities, it also requires something fundamental on ground, which is land, construction, government approvals, power. All these things are critical, because that is where you run this whole cloud.
Yeah.
So, and this has to be done on scale. You cannot really do it on a retail way, one building at a time. You have to create campuses so that once a hyperscaler or a bank or a government comes into your data center, they themselves will keep on growing over the next 25 years. So you should keep on giving them data center space and services without saying, mere paas jagah khatam ho gayi, right? So that was the thought which made me to go to meet Mr. Hirandani. I remember it was early 19, February 19. And I said, sir, if your capabilities and my experience, if we join hands and bring it under common roof, it'll be magic, and we can create some very large scale digital infrastructure in the country. Mr. Hirandani obviously knew me, because in a way I was like his customer, so called. He's a veteran, but it was so called I was a customer. And he says, Sunil, I'm convinced. You convince my son, because he's the one who is obviously taking over the group. He is based in Dubai, and he obviously is forward-looking guy. So why don't you convince him? I think Darshan was even much more aggressive than Mr. Hirandani himself. Within 2 meetings, we were like exchanging like, oh, I also thought so, you also thought so. And we just started Yotta. Like it was like in less than 2 weeks, we had decided to work on a blueprint, which I remember at that time I had put in like a 11,000 crore, business blueprint. And they said, Sunil, let's just start. So that's the blueprint we are executing even till today, creating large data center campuses which can meet the demand which India deserves, which is the horizontal, which means you keep on expanding like anything, and also make sure that you create multiple services layer within those data centers. So that's the blueprint we are executing today.
So that's the bet that you are still banking on.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is a different game, right? You had a very set career and you were doing everything that in the right way. Like you said, the universal energies were aligned to make things possible for you. But setting up a business like Yotta, it's a new ball game altogether. Like you rightly said, acquisition of land, taking all the permissions, concrete jungles, and then the infrastructure that you built on it. Was this something that you had ever learned in your earlier career, or something that came up new and natural to you when it comes to, inducting Yotta?
I think it is just that when you are in the mid of doing things like day in and day out for 20 years, first 10 years in Reliance and then next years in NTT NetMagic, day in and day out what you were doing, there are customers who want data center services, who want cloud services. They are building their whole digital businesses, whether it's core banking or e-commerce or content website or whatever they are building on the top of that. And that is as a person who is sitting on the company side, who is an operator. But when as a consumer, I am observing myself that I am consuming content like anything. I want the latest mobile phone. I want the latest apps. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on all the type of, every second minute I am making some payments. So you start extrapolating that this is something which is happening as a consumer life, that this digitalization is not going to stop. When I saw the manifestation of that in terms of that customers are coming in, genuinely I saw a hyperscaler coming in, demanding a data center space from me. By the time I delivered that space to that hyperscaler over 15 months later, he was ready, was his next requirement. I want one more building next door. By that time I delivered next building, and thankfully I was lucky because Hirandani's had the next piece of land available, and they said, fantastic, we'll give you one more building. But by the time I gave the next building, the customer was demanding more.
Wow.
So that is something which was, again, as I'm saying, on one side you are participating in this day-to-day activities of responding to the situations, but you always try to have a view from the fence, and you try to have a macro view, what is happening, why it is happening, and then you start realizing that this is something, the underlying driving factor, the tailwinds are the digital adoption, which is not going to stop, right? You may have different applications coming in, different websites coming in, different portals coming in, different use cases coming in. But fundamentally is that you as a human being have started consuming digitalization. All the macro factors supporting the digitalization in terms of broadband, in terms of mobiles, in terms of the low cost of mobiles, in terms of that our data plan in the country is lowest in the world. Like in 300 rupees you can get a full month of internet. And the Indian people's, I would say, savviness of consuming digital. We may not be knowing English, we may be sitting in a tier 3 city, but we are so savvy using mobile. Most of the content on internet you see from India is actually more in native languages than in English language itself. Right. So that is a unique ability Indians have in consuming content. So it was very visible that infrastructure built out in India will have to be much, much larger than what we are doing. I can give you some statistics. Even today, India is creating and consuming 20% of world's content. Of course, we have that type of population, so it's proportional to that. But even after so much of data center build out, we are hosting only 3% of world's content. Wow. Which means a significant part of India's content is still hosted in markets like US, which ideally should have been hosted in India. And that shows you the upside, that while you have built up enough capacity, all the critical data is residing in India, but our social media, by the way, is still hosted outside. It's not hosted in India. So if you have to bring that in India for better user experience, for your own sovereignty also, that is your IP, You have to build that infrastructure in India, the data centers, the cloud, the chips, you have to do that. So that was something I sometimes, like, people tell me, Sunil, you were able to look in future and that's why you started Yotta. I say, was it not visible to anybody and everybody? It was a very logical business call for me to take. And even that also were very, very visible, that in data center, you start with land and power and building. And on the top of that, you start putting your hardware, software, and people and skill set and automation. It is so very visible that you need the people who are expert into the civil, mechanical, and electrical part of the world. And you need expertise the people who are into electronics and communications part of the world. You need both these capabilities. And because I knew Mr. Hirandani, it was like just a thought, and that yes, it seems to be logical. Why don't we just join hands? So I, frankly speaking, don't give too much of credit to myself that how I thought it. But this was like anybody in my position would have visualized that this is the broad trend. And maybe because I stayed in the industry for 20 years at that time. So, and at a young age, I ended up literally doing many things which I never knew earlier. Like, whether it is the technological aspects of the data center, and there are many technical aspects, or whether it is the business dynamics of data centers, whether it is the how to run an organization, right, from an HR point of view or finance point of view. These were all the learnings I was doing, on my way to run that business. So when this thought came of Yotta, of large expanded data centers, sovereign cloud, that subconscious thought of also that you have a capability of doing it, the manifestation of what is about to come in the coming years was actually, I always say, it was like visible through my eyes. It used to span through my eyes that yes, I am doing this and I can execute it. So I think, and then once you start that, then I think all the forces of the nature start supporting you.
Wonderful. Let's talk at an average Indian level. For people who don't know too much of technicalities of how this works, right? So let's say मैं एक average user हूँ, मैं मेरे फ़ोन से, मेरे कंप्यूटर से AI यूज़ कर रहा हूँ. Tell us where Yotta sits in the entire chain. What happens in the background when I'm doing a small ChatGPT task, for example?
Very simple. Any and every internet or digital transaction we are doing, हम कंज्यूम किस चीज़ पे कर रहे हैं? अपने मोबाइल पे कर रहे हैं इंटरनेट को, या अपने लैपटॉप डेस्कटॉप पे कर रहे हैं? आजकल हमारे टीवी भी बड़े स्मार्ट टीवी बन गए हैं, तो जो OTT चैनल्स आते हैं वो भी सब डिजिटल है. So those are your endpoint devices, right, where you are consuming digital. These devices are connected to a network. Typically, you will have a 4G, 5G plan from, let's say, Jio or Airtel, right? That is a wireless piece of that, which is taking your signal. So you're prompting, right? Either you're saying YouTube video, or you prompt a ChatGPT screen that you want to have some document from there. That signal is going through your wireless network to a tower, right? The wireless towers. That tower in turn is connected through fiber, the underground fiber, to the telecom providers, what they call a network node basically in the city, right? So let's say it is the Reliance Jio, for example. That node in turn is connected to thousands of nodes of the operator across the country.
Okay.
And that operator's network in turn is connected to other operators in the country and also all the global operators in the country through undersea optic fiber cables. So across country we have optic fiber cables below the ground, right? Many of you must have seen whenever there's a duct digging on the road, you see the fiber come out and all that stuff. And India is connected to rest of the world through optic fiber cables which are laid below the sea on the seabed. We call it undersea optic fiber cables, right? So if now your signal came out of your mobile through wireless network, then traveled through fiber network, went through that network. Now you were going, let's say, to YouTube. Let's assume that YouTube is running in a is there somewhere. It has to be that content is running. That content, the software where the YouTube, that the website comes and the content comes, that is a software which is running on a physical hardware machine. Just like you have your laptop, you have software element and a hardware element. Similarly, you can just imagine a much more powerful laptop is running somewhere which is hosting YouTube content. So your click goes there, and on that content start coming and streaming to you from your network. Now that place where that powerful machine is running, that place is not, we call it cloud, but it's not a cloud like a cloud in the sky. It is actually a physical building. and that building is called data centers. In that data center, it's a very, very specialized building, not a regular commercial or residential building.
Sure.
Very, very robust building with lots of physical security, with lots of power, lots of cooling, lots of automation. And it will have thousands and thousands of these type of servers. So it may be running YouTube on one side, it may be running Facebook on one side, it may be running maybe a GST application or a core banking application of a bank. So it may be running various types of this of applications. So your hit goes there. And by the way, when you go to a ChatGPT also, or you go to Gemini or a Grok, exactly the same phenomena is happening. Your device through network, your prompt goes to some backend machine. The only difference is at the backend machines, instead of a website containing content running, now it is an AI model. What is the AI model? Thousands of machines acting as a supercomputer. You put the whole of internet world's data onto those machines, and machines are running some algorithms that they started finding patterns in the data, and machine become intelligent. So it is like कि जब बच्चा पैदा होता है, आप उसको 15 साल तक बताते हो, बेटा ये A है, ये B है, ये C है, ये एप्पल है, ऑरेंज है. पहले आप उसमें डाटा भरते हो, with time बच्चा इंटेलिजेंट हो जाता है, and then he start answering your questions based on the intelligence which got stored in his mind. Same thing here. मशीन पे आपने इतना डाटा डाला, पूरी दुनिया का डाटा डाल दिया, तो मशीन इंटेलिजेंट हो गई. After that, when you start prompting the machine, now it is intelligent. It says, I can answer your question. So that is AI. So whether you are reaching out to YouTube or whether you are reaching out to ChatGPT, fundamentally it is your clicks from your device going through a network, going to a data center at the back end, and in that data center, that particular hardware or software is responding to you with the content. Yotta is sitting at that back end.
Right.
At that back end, Yotta creates that physical building. Yotta puts those hardwares and softwares and those entire machinery, which they call cloud, which can help organizations which run these websites or these AI models to run there, operate there, and then they deliver their services to the end customer. Yeah.
It's getting very interesting. Now let me ask you a rather silly question.
Yeah.
Why does India need to build its own data centers when you have alternatives like AWS or Azure or GCP? What is it that people don't get?
I think earlier when I used to give this question, answer to this question, sometime it used to be abstract and maybe people were connecting or not connecting. But now let me give you with the example. About, I think it's 2 years back, because Russia-Ukraine war was happening, and there were a lot of sanctions on Russia and also Russian companies and anybody who was trying to do business with Russia. In India, there's a company called Naira Energy, which had a tie-up with a Russian company.
Yes.
It's an oil company. Because of some sanctions on that Naira Energy, Microsoft Europe was actually asked to stop the services of Naira Energy.
Wow.
So one fine day, Microsoft stopped the email services and office services because the whole world is dependent on Microsoft. We all use Outlook, email, and we use MS Office. And these are no more running in our machines. These emails and office systems are running in cloud, on Microsoft Cloud. So they were stopped. Can you just see the impact that a large organization with thousands of employees and lots of business workflows day in and day out, suddenly the entire business came to a standstill. Simply because some operator somewhere in the world following a law of a different country actually ended up stopping your operations running in India. That is the risk which everybody carries. That if you are putting the most critical applications of your country, whether it is government applications which are serving citizens or whether it is enterprise applications, if you are putting it in the hands of operators who might not be necessarily only following the laws of the land, but who also are accountable to the laws of a different land altogether, and who are not completely into your jurisdiction, your control, they may have an ability to just kill your operations. Wow. And that is the risk, considering the geopolitical situations where nobody knows who is your friend and who is your enemy, right? And access to resources. And we have seen examples of GPU chips being taken as a trade negotiation tools, rare earths being taken as trade negotiation tools. When you have got that type of scenario which is visible day in and day out, India as a country, and for sure every country, should make sure that only having data locally hosted in India is not enough. Control over the digital infrastructure in which your data is getting processed and hosted need to be paramount, right? So that no single country or company in the world should be just being able to sort of do a kill switch and stop you from doing your business. So that is where, from a jurisdiction and control point of view, of course that does not mean you become completely inward looking. That does not mean you don't have productive relationships and partnerships with global companies. But that is a balance which because these global companies have achieved great, they have built great cloud, great services, we all benefit from them. And many of the technology which they have developed, you may take years before you can develop those capabilities in your country. But it is a fine balance you have to keep, that while you develop a lot of capabilities of this digital infrastructure within the country, and that's where government is putting a semiconductor mission of building chips within the country. That is where government says India AI mission, which means building AI capabilities, AI models within the country. That is where government is saying make in India, build as much components in India as possible. But at the same time, a government also wants the technology companies to come in India and give their technologies. Till the time you are having a control over those technologies and somebody from outside is not able to do a remote control and stop you, that is fine. So that is a fine balance of the sovereignty definition we all have to adopt, basically. Yeah.
So it's in national interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You committed to deploying 20,000 plus of NVIDIA's latest GPUs. That's insane. I see my son's computer where he has a couple of GPUs. It's a gaming machine.
Yeah.
And it's a big one. You're looking at about 20,000 of those GPUs. Just help us visualize the scale that you're talking about.
First, if I just talk in terms of investment numbers, 20,000 GPUs is almost like $2 billion of investment. So these are the GPUs which are the most powerful, the latest GPUs which NVIDIA has created. And when you put these thousands and thousands of GPUs together and connect these GPUs through a specialized network called InfiniBand, these all GPUs capabilities get combined and they start acting as a one large supercomputer. Now this is a supercomputer which is by the way has been used to train a ChatGPT model.
Okay.
The Geminis, the Cloud, all these great models we are using, all these models were trained only when they had access to the thousands of these latest machines. So for India, one is that yes, for your day-to-day use, you use the APIs of ChatGPT models or Gemini model or Cloud model, and everybody is using that and they are optimizing their businesses and all this thing. But as I said, the sovereignty dialogues, that it is very, very important that in India, we need to have our own sovereign AI models, which are trained on our own data. Imagine, remember I told you that India is creating and consuming 20% of world's data.
Yeah.
We are a 5,000 years old culture. So the data sets which India has, nobody in the world has access to those data sets. For that matter, even industry specific data sets like a healthcare data set or an agriculture data set or a school education data set or a climate data sets or a soil data set. No country in the world will have the type of data set which India has. If India does not have its own GPUs, these data sets will become accessible, will become available. Somebody will start using these data sets to train their own models, let's say in US. They will create an IP on that model and then they will actually sell the same models to India and they will charge for that. It is like so many times in a very ironic way, I say this is nothing but East India Company model, where the East India Company took raw cotton and the labor of Indians, took that raw cotton and labor of Indians to the factories in UK, created cloth, and again India was the market to sell that cloth as well. Here the raw material has changed to the Indian data and Indian engineers workforce. So for India, that is one part, that IP need to belong to India, right? Because it's our data. Second, that India is presenting the largest market in the world with our 1 billion people carrying smartphones. So if we are the largest market, why people should use India only as a consumer market and make money on the top of that?
True.
That product IP should belong to India. India should consume it inside, and India should also export it outside. So from that economic and sovereignty point of view, it's very, very important that we build our own models. Also, one more reason. When a ChatGPT and all these models are training their model, they are doing it a general purpose model. They are thinking global and the world, dunya as their target segment. They might or might not be bothered about creating a AI model which can talk in various Indian languages and can solve the problems which a farmer in Indian villages is facing, right? So if India has to create, ultimately technology for the sake of technology is no use. Ultimately it has to benefit and create maximum impact in the lives of the maximum number of people. That's what India should do. For that, again, it's important that in India, this is another aspect. Only 10 to 15% Indians are the ones who are very, very fluent in speaking as well as writing English. Majority of the Indians are still very comfortable talking or writing in their own native language, right? So if internet is all about, or AI is all about English, you are not actually going to the masses.
Right.
The masses would like to use their native language. We are normal human beings. Why should I only use English? मेरे को हिंदी अच्छी लगती है, मैं हिंदी बोलूँगा. मेरे को मलयालम अच्छी लगती है, मलयालम बोलूँगा. अगर आप हिंदी में लिखने की कोशिश करोगे, कंप्यूटर पे बड़ा डिफिकल्ट है. But what if we create a AI models, which does not require you to type on a screen, where you are speaking, right? So it is the AI which India requires, and that is where most of the development in India is happening by various startups, is actually voice-based AI, where you are just talking to the device, which can be your mobile or anything. The device converts your talk to English written. The AI model processes your request, gives you the answer, it processes, gives the English, it again converts into audio in your native language, in your slang, in your way of speaking. Even if it's Hindi-English mix, it starts answering as if he's having a friendly conversation with you. That is what India requires. So when you need that to solve your agricultural problems, solve your education problem, as well as your health problems, then it is required that India need to have its own GPUs,
right,
so that I can put that to use which I want the best purpose of, which can satisfy the needs of my millions and billions of people. And that is why it's very, very important that we put these GPUs. Frankly speaking, I give this sort of numbers in a different context. I'll give you the GPUs number. India has 140 crore people. For 140 crore people, the data center capacity is 1.4 gigawatt. I just told you that, right? America has 35 crore people, which is 1/4 exact. The data center capacity in America is 17 gigawatts. Do the math, America is 50 times larger than India in terms of data center capacity per capita of population.
Right.
Same is now very visible, applicable on GPUs as well. Today we are being very happy that we have brought some 20, 30, 40,000 GPUs in India. But America as a country, which has got 1/4 of the population, already has got millions of GPUs. So if India has to really meet the digital needs, and if we genuinely believe AI can solve lots of our ground problems as a country, the number of GPUs which India will require, and of course the corresponding data center capacity India will be required, will go into millions. This 20,000 is great starting, because we are starting from a stage where India was not having any GPUs 2 years back. So that way we can pat on our back that we have done something for the country. But India in coming times will require millions of GPUs.
It's very interesting, and help me answer this briefly. GPUs are scarce, very expensive, and they usually depreciate faster than any other asset in the business. Why are you still betting so big on this game, and how can you afford to sleep at night?
Yeah. Now that is where, okay, first is GPUs, you are using the actual life of a GPU. Let's not go by, fast obsolete and all this thing. What happens is that a GPU comes in the market, maybe after 2 years, one more GPU is coming in the market,
right,
which is more powerful, within the same amount of power or with the same amount of dollars, it can do more compute. That is what NVIDIA or any of these GPU providers are doing, right? Obviously, they are trying to make their GPUs better and better. But that does not mean the GPU which was earlier there has lost its utilities. It's just that it is not producing that much of compute capacity what the new one is able to do that, right? If you are able to, and that is now it's a business talk. It is like how you ensure that you are profitable when you are investing into this. If you are investing into GPUs and you are able to contract these GPUs to large model builders in India or abroad, and because of scarcity, you are not only able to find customers for your GPUs, if you are giving obviously good quality GPU clusters, in India by the large model builders, you find the customers in Government of India, because Government of India is adopting in a big way. They want to train their models in across various sectors, including defense, home, finance and all. And you also end up getting lots of global customers who are also looking for good quality GPUs across the world. And you sign up a contract of, let's say, 4 years.
Okay.
In those 4 years, you price your GPUs in such a way that you recover your entire cost. So you are protected that if you are investing billions and billions of dollars, you are ensuring that before even investing into those GPUs, you are ensuring there is a customer who will consume that GPU capacity for 4 years, so you will not be losing money. After 4 years, the GPUs still belong to you. And at that time, as I said, those GPUs still have the power capacity has not, the compute capacity has not reduced.
Right.
Even if the market price of those GPUs in terms of consumer per hour price has got reduced, you can, even if you give those GPUs at a reduced price after 4 years, you can still keep on doing business on them for the next 6 years. That is one part, and that's how we are managing it. There is another angle to this. AI has got typically two phases. One is training the machine, that is the model training, and second is the inferencing. सेम जैसे मैंने बच्चे का एग्जांपल दिया कि 15-20 साल तक आप बच्चे को पढ़ाते हो, एजुकेशन देते हो, दैट इज ट्रेनिंग द माइंड ऑफ द चाइल्ड. एंड 20 साल के बाद बच्चा ट्रेंड हो जाता है एंड देन ही स्टार्ट अप्लाइंग दैट नॉलेज व्हेन ही इज डूइंग हिज जॉब और व्हेन ही स्टार्ट्स अ बिजनेस. दैट इज द इन्फ्लुएंसिंग पार्ट, एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ एआई फॉर द रियल वर्ल्ड यूज केस. When you are doing the training, and especially when you are creating a frontier model like a ChatGPT, or in India like people like Sarvam or IIT Bombay are creating large models, you would like to use possibly the latest of the GPUs because they are more powerful, they are more performance driven and all that stuff. But once the model is trained, that model which is trained is like a software code. You can run even on a GPU which is 4 generations older.
Got it.
To give the inferencing. So, and the real future market is inferencing. Let's just think that एक बार मॉडल ट्रेन कर लिया, वो कर लिया, thousands of machine लग गई, 6 महीने लगे, 1 साल लगे, मशीन ट्रेन हो गई. After that, lifelong उस मॉडल को billions of people will come and they will consume that model to get their inferencing request. So real market of future, and that you hear Jensen Huang of NVIDIA keeps on speaking about it all the time. The real market of future is inferencing, and that is there. You can put even your older generation models. By the way, the GPUs which were used, the GPU models which were used to train the first version of ChatGPT, GPT-3, way back in 20s, is still making money for the service provider who had given those 800, which is 6 years down the line. It's still making money, that GPU is still relevant. There is one more angle. One way you do business with GPUs is, as I said, that you invest into GPUs and then you lease out these GPUs over a long-term contract, as I explained, to a customer like a Anthropic or like a Together or like anybody who is building the models, right? But the way world is going, and that is where the consumption-driven economy will start coming in.
Sure.
Enterprises, when they start adopting AI in a big way, today they are sitting on the fence just seeing what is happening, doing some small POCs and pilots. Consumers have accepted AI like anything, but enterprises have not adopted AI in a big way in their enterprise workflows. But tomorrow when enterprises start adopting in a big way, they are looking for ways and means in which they don't end up signing these long-term contracts of GPUs, because they can be $1 million contract and enterprises don't want to take that risk. They say, you as a service provider, let's say Yotta, you run your GPUs in your data center. You also run various models like a Llama or a DeepSeek or Mistral, all these models you run at your cost. We will only come and consume your models through our APIs and will only pay you by the number of tokens we have created or generated from your system. So we will not pay you fixed fee for your GPUs. We will only and only pay for your GPU cycles as much as we have consumed by way of tokens. Now that is how the future market will come in. If I have to participate in that, today I am very happy making money giving long-term contract to GPUs.
Right.
But the future of this AI market from a service provider point of view would be where I am able to align my business model, where I invest into GPUs billions of dollars upfront, but I give my GPUs on a consumption basis, literally few cents per million tokens is something when I'm able to offer to enterprises. Once I have taken my GPUs through 4 or 5 years of contracting cycle, recovered my entire money already, those GPUs, leftover GPUs, I will then put into my pool and I start generating tokens.
That's repurposing.
And enterprises, you got it, and enterprises will not be bothered which GPU you are using till the time you are able to give them a reasonably good performance to generate tokens and giving it a good price point. And that is how. So it is a matter of how you put to use your infrastructure and how do you productize this entire story. Yes, it is a balancing game. It can be a risky game if not managed well because you are talking billions of dollars. But if you are able to manage it well, it obviously requires a lot of investments and a lot of thought process, but you can do it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but we are learning. Or, frankly speaking, whatever I'm sharing with you is something which is also a learning of day to day, how we observe the dynamics, how the world is shaping up. We are also learning, but that's what is my conclusion as of now.
I'm going to touch base on a very important aspect, Sunil, sovereignty and why it matters to every Indian. What you are doing, like I said earlier while I was introducing you, is not a matter of creating infrastructure that's going to boost your company or for your customers. It's going to boost India's direction towards being more and more sovereign to that respect.
Yeah.
I have a few examples. I did a little bit of research and you can correct me wherever I'm going wrong. What I understand is Bhashini almost entirely runs on Indian infrastructure. On your cloud. And it was practically stress tested during the recent Mahakumbh that we had.
That's correct. That's correct.
Tell us more about it. Tell us that story.
So, as I was explaining about that, majority of India resides in tier 2, tier 3 cities and villages, and they might or might not be comfortable in English. If you want to take the benefits of technology to masses, then it has to be in their own language. And in the medium they are comfortable with, which is voice, not necessarily written communication. Bhashini is Government of India's platform, the first and the largest AI translation platform, where it is doing multiple purposes. Right now you go to Bhashini, you write something, in real time it starts converting into whatever language you want. You write in whatever language and it converts to whatever language you want. Today you go to any government website which is citizen facing website. On the top right, you'll get a tab that you want to see this entire website into a different language. You just convert the language, the entire website will convert into the language which you want, right? Or when you see Prime Minister speaking in Tamil Nadu, he will speak in real time in Hindi. The people will listen to him real time in Tamil. All this real time language translation and this entire work is happening in Bhashini. So the concerned websites or the concerned front-end tools are using some APIs to connect to Bhashini. Bhashini has got this collection of multiple AI models who are doing this magic and delivering the end result. Now, as you can see, increasingly, in fact, every single Aadhaar authentication which you are doing, many of the Aadhaar authentication also happen in the native language.
Okay.
So even those authentications also are using Bhashini APIs. So now you can just imagine from this point of view, just like a UPI has become a critical national resource because the whole country transacts on that, Bhashini, because of its capability and the benefits it's giving to the users, is critically becoming an important part of the whole India's ecosystem. This was running on a foreign cloud operator. Of course, there were issues of performance and latencies and things like that also because it was not necessarily running in India. But it was also an issue of that such critical resource should rather be in complete jurisdictional control of India and not outside. Same theory which I was just saying that. So because it was a very, very large setup, and generally there is always a perception, nobody is wrong in that, but there is a perception that if it is a foreign cloud operator, it must be great in terms of quality. If it is a local operator, we may have quality issues. That is a general perception, obviously people have ended up building for India. But so what we did is the Mahakumbh was coming in 2024 or January or February.
Yes.
And we offered that why don't you test, the government had created a chatbot called Sahayak, where those crores of people who are assembling in Mahakumbh, they will be real time asking मेरे को यहाँ होटल जाना है, इसकी डायरेक्शन बताओ, डुबकी कहाँ लेनी है, जो भी उनके क्वेश्चंस हैं पूरे पूरे, या मेरा कुछ बच्चा गुम गया है, मेरे को कहीं पे पुलिस को कर दो, जो भी उनका वो था क्वेश्चन। तो गवर्नमेंट ने ये पूरा एक चैटबॉट बनाया था सहायक, वेयर सेम थिंग दैट पीपल कुड यूज दैट ऐप, talk in whatever language they want to talk to, their native language, and it will answer them in their own language. There was a huge AI system running behind that. We said we will be the service provider behind the chatbot. So all those transactions from those people's mobile will come to my data center where the Bhashini's model will be working it, and people will get real-time response. You can just imagine that within those few days, millions and millions of requests were coming in real time. In real time, millions of concurrent requests were coming in, and there was not even an iota of deficiency in service, and people were just getting it in a smooth way without any problems.
Wonderful.
Now that is something which sort of got the attention of many people in government, that if we can do a project of the scale of Bhashini on Indian infrastructure, and obviously it means it is in our control, why we cannot do the whole of Bhashini onto this platform? And that is where India also had created, the government of India, Ministry of IT, had come up with something called India AI Mission. So where they empaneled providers like Yotta, that you are empaneled to provide your GPUs to government of India at a pre-decided rate. So they said, we will start with you with Bhashini. So they used my GPUs, government of India contracted, gave it to Bhashini team. We took almost like 7 or 8 months. It was a very complicated project. We ended up migrating the whole of Bhashini's infrastructure, right? It was some more than 100 applications, right? It looks like a one website, but there were like more than 100 different softwares and applications which were actually migrated. There were like petabytes and petabytes of data, millions of small files, text files, audio files, which actually were migrated into my data center, and all that actually happened very beautifully. Around 9th of February, I remember the date, just before the India AI Impact Summit, Bhashini CEO was so happy. He said, Sunil, this is something which the whole world should know. So we actually called an event. We call it a pre-event to the AI Impact Summit. We did it in the India Habitat Center in Delhi, right next to the ministry. The additional secretary, who is the India AI Mission CEO, he himself came and delivered the opening address and just said that this is something which is fundamental to India's AI journey, because not only that Bhashini application and models are completely sovereign, built in India completely with Indian data, but the underlying infrastructure of the GPUs and data centers and the operations, that is also completely built by Indians and completely operated by Indians. So it was a milestone moment, and we actually released a very big 250-page report on that, which actually went to every ministry in the government. So that in a way has paved the way for a larger thinking, I say, within government, that if you can do something like Bhashini within India, you can definitely do many other projects as well across different industries.
I'm going to bring in data sovereignty here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring it through one of your writings. You written that there is a foreign law. I'm going to refer to the US Cloud Act that compels a provider to share information on request, whether it's stored in the US or anywhere across the globe. Now, with that being said, let's say a hypothetical example. I'm a banker sitting here in Mumbai. I'm using that service provider to store my data. Should I be sleepless?
I think your question contains the answer, right? I gave you the first reason, that because a foreign service provider was following the law of the land of US, and they were compelled to stop the services of Naira Energy, and they ended up stopping the business of a large organization, like a kill switch in your hand. This is the second and rather more dangerous aspect what you just described. You gave the example of a bank, that my data which is there in the bank, what is there in my account, what money, what transactions. Tomorrow, somebody sitting in US can give a diktat to the cloud service operator that give access of that data to me. It is your private data, it's your financial transactions. Just imagine if some critical Ministry of Home Affairs application is hosted on that cloud operator. Of course, there are checks and balances, nobody can just have that. But the end of the point is that in normal situations, everything works fine.
Yep.
These things are tested only when they are emergency situations.
Right.
And the current geopolitical situation obviously is you don't know who is your friend and who is your enemy. If at that time, and also let's understand that India in the last couple of years has suddenly emerged as a big force on the world scene, right? We are competing to become the third largest economy in the world, right? We are becoming a pole in ourselves. We say, why should we align with this pole or that pole? We are a pole in ourselves, right? When you are trying to do that, there will be many, many forces who will rather try to pull you down. And in this scenario, how much India is self-sufficient and do not give any other country a right to control India is something becomes very, very important. And that is the second aspect, rightly mentioned, that which the government is very, very concerned about. And that is another very, very reason. Maybe you cannot put all your applications on sovereign, that is not the business case. But your most critical applications, your most critical data sets should be there on cloud operators which follow the laws of the land completely,
right,
which are the native sovereign operators basically.
Interesting. You also said that sovereignty does not mean that we build everything in India.
Yep.
There will be a limited interdependencies.
Yep.
So how does buying 20,000 American chips fall in this and still fall under sovereign?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it is a matter of how do you define sovereignty, and this is, I can tell you, is the biggest debate on every forum on AI is happening nowadays. The whole of AI Impact Summit, which happened in Delhi in February for 5 days, the one topic which was there on all the panels was sovereignty and how to define sovereignty. In fact, just last week I was in ministry and I was having a chat with the secretary, and this topic again came up because we launched some product in a joint offering with IBM, and again the same question come up. You are tying up with IBM, which is a US company, so how it is still sovereign? Sovereignty definition does not mean you produce everything in India, you isolate yourself from the rest of the world. The definition of sovereignty means that you are in control of your infrastructure and nobody else should be able to control from outside. So what it means is you can still have the latest technology from the big technology operators of the world. You bring that technology, host that in your country, but make sure there is a technology transfer. Make sure the control over the technology, once it has come into India, the control over the usage of the technology lies in your hand and somebody cannot control the technology from outside. And also, there are productive relationships with not one company or one country, but multiple countries, so that if in the future you need more spare parts, more maintenance, more support, that single company should not be able to blackmail you. You have got alternate channels, alternate productive relationship with other countries and companies as well. That is the real definition of sovereignty, because let's see that no country in the world can ever say that we are self-sufficient in all respects. When a Trump goes with his entire delegation of CEOs to China, one of the real purposes was to have China give access of rare earths of China, because 75% of rare earths of the world are actually in China, right? When China goes and woo US, because China says that Mr. US, you have got NVIDIA and I want NVIDIA chips. When Prime Minister goes all the way to African nations, he actually wants to negotiate rare earths there. So when people come to India, and why Trump beyond a point is not able to take any action in India as much as he dislikes that his so-called jobs are going away, because the US IT industry all runs by Indians. 25-30% of employees in US tech companies are Indians. Many of the CEOs of US companies are Indians. So essentially, US countries and US companies are hugely interdependent on each other.
Sure.
So as a world, as a country, we have to have a pragmatic definition of sovereignty, and that pragmatic definition is you are globally connected, but domestically you are self-sufficient as much as possible, but you have productive relationships that you use the best technologies, but the control over those technologies when you start using them lies with you. And that is where, if you see, I am using NVIDIA chips in my data center. Can NVIDIA sitting in US control my usage of chips? No, they cannot. I am using, for that matter, Microsoft Azure Cloud, but I am not using their public cloud.
Sure.
I have made Microsoft give their Azure Foundry software code to run onto my Shakti Cloud.
Okay.
And once it is running there, it is within my control. I am deciding how to use that.
Okay.
I did a partnership with IBM just 2 weeks back. I was there at their global event in US, and we did a partnership with IBM has a fantastic AI technology called Watson X.
Yep.
That Watson X, for the first time in the world, IBM is doing this, that they are going to put Watson X on Yotta's cloud, and then this environment will be completely sovereign, which is something which we offered to Indian government last week.
Sure.
That IBM is giving it to Yotta to use it for the government purposes and Indian enterprise purposes, but IBM no way will be able to control it remotely. It will be completely in Yotta's control, in the control of the customer who will be using it that. So that is the definition of sovereignty. Yeah.
A lot of Indian AI is built on open weight models,
Yeah.
whose licenses can tighten.
Yeah.
So how does sovereign India's AI really help? And where does platforms like Sarvam or Bhashini stand?
See, frankly speaking, Sunny, you have done lots of research, and lots of your questions carry the answer itself. And I am just revalidating and reaffirming
Sure.
what you have deduced already. And it is imperative that India has to build its own models, right? Of course, there are great models in the world, but for all the reasons we just talked about, sovereignty, control, jurisdiction, continuity, resiliency as a country, you need to be self-sufficient, especially for sectors which are critical for you. Nobody else in the world will come and create AI models for the needs of your farmers or for the needs for having assisted education for your millions and millions of population or for your healthcare needs.
Right.
Right? The type of population we have, where you have got, like thousands of people per doctor, one doctor for thousands of people, it is a huge use case that AI can come and act like an assistant to a doctor or assistant to a nurse or assistant to a teacher. So India will have to build it on its own. One is the control reason, but second is the Indian use cases are unique. Nobody else will do it, we will have to do it ourselves. So it's very, very important that India build its own models using its own data sets. There is economic reasons also. Just like India built UPI, it just transformed our economy. Every single informal economic sector came into a formal economy. Every single person ended up having accounts. The black market has reduced like anything. And now India is exporting our UPI technology to 40 different countries in the world. That is what is the heck of India is getting built because of that. Same thing India has the capability to build in AI. Once you build your models, put them on a population scale. I keep on saying that India is waiting for multiple UPI movements in AI. Once India has got multiple use cases of AI which get adopted on a population scale, the same thing can be then replicated into many countries in global south, let's say in Africa, let's say in Middle East, let's say in APAC, who also need the same solutions with their own tweaking.
Right.
So it also has the economic reasons that India improves its own economy because of this self-sufficiency and improvement in productivity. But then it also export these capabilities to other countries and make money out of that. So it's very, very important.
Interesting. If something goes wrong on sovereign infrastructure, on our land, within the jurisdiction of Indian laws, the buck stops at you. It's a responsibility that you as an organization obviously have signed up for. But do you want to live with that burden?
Yeah, first of all, I think with time, so first of all, answer is absolutely yes, right? Sovereignty and accountability for all the participants who are creating the sovereign infrastructure, which will be serving the needs of citizens, billions of citizens. These things come together.
Yep.
You cannot just look at sovereignty that maybe these sovereign dialogues are helping you as a business operator, so that is why you should talk sovereignty. A whole lot of accountability and responsibility comes along with that, and you should be prepared to handle that.
Sure.
Second, I think I remember from the days when internet and this whole .com thing had just come way back in 2000s, and I remember there was a website, auction website, forgot the name of the website. Avnish Bajaj was the CEO of that website.
Talking Bazi.com?
Bazi.com, yeah, I remember the Bazi.com. And somebody, tried to auction something which was not appropriate, and Avnish Bajaj actually was put in jail.
Wow.
Because at that time, there was no awareness and education how this whole internet ecosystem works, right? Avnish Bajaj was just an intermediary. There is an underlying data center. On the top of that is a cloud operator. Then there is a website operator who is running auction site, which is Bazi. And then there are end users who are free to put anything for auction. And there are some people who are willing to buy from that auction. Yeah. That differentiation that the intermediary cannot be responsible for the end user is doing. It is like Facebook cannot be responsible, for example, sometime when people are writing, let's say, fake news and all that stuff. So I think India has evolved big way from those times to today, where if you see today that government of India actually directs a social media operator if they see a fake news or any news which can create riots, for example, and they are mandated to remove that content within few hours. So those type of laws and regulations have been made. Of course, if they don't do that, despite government saying, then government can take action. But government has started understanding that it is not Facebook who has created the content. It is some end users have done this. So till that time, Facebook is doing its duty of checking and moderating the content and removing it if government is saying this, they are compliant to the law. Same thing here, that there are various layers of operators in play, the DC operator, the cloud operator, the platform operator, the website operator, end users. Because of that distinction, a fair bit of responsibility still comes on you. Yeah. But if there is something happening on the layer above which you are not handling, like I do not touch a website data, I do not touch a AI model, I'm just facilitating that model to be hosted. That responsibility at the respective layers, I think, has got well defined in regulation also. And whatever responsibility comes to the respective operators in this whole ecosystem, the operators should be willing to take it, and we are obviously taking that.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah. Let's talk about India versus the world, and I request you to be blunt.
Yeah.
Where do you think on AI infrastructure India stands today when you compare us to the likes of US or China?
As of now, India is nowhere. If you see, relative to US or China. 3 years back, we are completely not there. Today, we can see that we are at least in a position to saying that we are also in the fray, and we'll have to keep on building this infrastructure for the next 10 years or so. And when I say infrastructure, it is the data centers, the chips, the clouds, the models, the data sets, the applications, the use cases, everything India will have to keep on building and keep on adopting it. And I mind you that any technology which has come in the in the world, India has always been late adopter, right from the time of laptops and desktops to the time of internet to the time of mobile. India has always been late adopter, but once India adopts the technology, our size and scale and our savviness for digital make sure that we become number one in the world. The number of digital payments which are happening in India today are 50% of the world. So rest entire world does 50% of digital payments and 50% payments happening in India. That is India's digital savviness. So I think India today is nowhere. India is ramping up on all these layers, right from infrastructure to models and everything. If we continue on the same pace, India surely will become one of the largest AI economies of the world.
So that's an upside that you see.
Absolutely.
And that's a North Star.
Yeah, but you're right. As of now, we have a long way to go. We have just started. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk money matters. And I won't talk numbers, but without mentioning numbers, you chose to make your company list in India and not anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the reason behind this decision?
Again, your question has the answer. The entire narrative, the entire vision behind Yotta is sovereignty.
Okay.
We are building digital infrastructure for India. It makes sovereign sense, it makes nationalistic sense, it makes business sense. No market is bigger than India when you are trying to serve digital products, right? So, and we are getting great response as well. There are not many options in India if you want to give to an Indian investor options to participate in the AI economy, in the AI infrastructure economy. There are not many options. So when we are getting a great response, when the people who can understand our story better lie in India, not anywhere else, I would rather like to list in India. And I can tell you that while we are waiting for IPO to come and it is in the offing in the next couple of months, we are into our pre-IPO round. We already have raised money from various families and HNIs. And I can tell you the response has been just phenomenal. And yeah, that is where we are. And by the way, nothing stops us in listing in US as well. So it's like right now we raise in India, and we know whatever our business plan demand, we will be able to raise that type of money in the next couple of months through
Sure.
IPO and pre-IPO. But this business is a hugely capex intensive, capex heavy business. We might have to invest billions of dollars. So the option of investing in US, of listing in US is always there. But yes, as of now, I think India has been a great story, and we are looking forward to that. Yeah.
What you are into is probably one of the most capital hungry businesses in the country today. If you have to be honest, what keeps you awake at night? Is it the technology curve? Is it the capital? Is it the competition? Or anything else that nobody asks you about?
See, I tell you, when you are investing capital in a significant way,
Yeah.
It's not only the size of the capital, it's also that it takes time from the time you start investing capital to the time that capital become revenue ready.
Okay.
When you start putting that to use for users, like you build data centers or you put GPU clusters or put clouds, it's not only the infrastructure, it also means lots of skill sets, right? Today I've got 1800 plus employees, and you can just imagine these are engineers coming from different walks of the world. These are the people who have got multiple opportunities outside, but hiring them, acquiring them, retaining them, keeping them happy itself is a huge sort of an exercise for a tech company like ours. And by doing this investment, having these people and skill set to work on that, when you ultimately are ready to generate revenues, and at that time the market is not ready,
Yeah.
to accept your technology, maybe you are either ahead of the curve or maybe you already have lost it and the market has already moved ahead. That can be nightmares, because when you are investing your shareholders' money. You are taking loans from the bank. The bank will start demanding their interest every month. So how you plan it out, how you take calculated risk, you cannot be just saying the entire market should be there with me and only then I will invest, then you have lost the game, then you are not a businessman. But at the same time, you start investing haphazardly without studying the market and then having to repent because nobody is consuming your services. That is where that balance between that you keep on looking at the future, keep on investing in the future, but do in such a way which is calculated and measured, so that when the time comes, you are at the right time at the right place and you can benefit from what the future is giving to you. But yeah, that is where it is. I mean, not being able to put your investment to use and to generate revenue can be a big nightmare for everybody. And I have gone through those exercises, those phases in the last 3-4 years many times. But yes, things have turned good. The fundamentals of Indian digital adoption have been good. Global markets have come to us simply because not many people in the world have been able to create this type of GPU cluster which Yotta has done. We are one of the only 6 partners of NVIDIA in the world who they call it reference platform partners. So NVIDIA themselves recommend all the top model builders in the world to go to Yotta and consume Yotta services. So things have been good, but yes, that is what we are always cautious about.
Interesting. I have a leadership angle here which I want to bring in very, very quickly before I play the rapid fire with you, which is going to be the conclusion of this episode. But an important aspect, right? You, like you rightly mentioned, you lead people building things that won't pay off for years.
Yeah.
And when you're in that business, how do you keep your people motivated to that abstract to make sure that they continue to believe in the bet for a long-term perspective?
Let me give you a philosophical answer to this. We all in our management schools must have read this theory called Maslow theory.
Yeah.
There are physical needs, which is money, bread and makan and all. And then there's social status, and then at some layer you start talking about self-actualization. I think sometimes we take a very low view of human beings, that they are only interested in money. Mera CTC kitna hai, mere ko paisa kitna milega, and we feel people are working because of that. I think beyond a point, especially when you are in a blue collar, white collared economy and you are talking to engineers and MBAs, I think those needs are by default satisfied.
Sure.
People are looking for social recognitions. They are looking for value from their work. So most of the time I say, and especially true for my top management, they're all my colleagues who have worked with me for the last 25 years, and they all blindly followed me when I started Yotta, and they joined me when I was just like a single person organization. I don't tell them what to do and how to do. I'm always telling them why we are doing what we are doing. And that why is the purpose.
Okay.
The moment they know that there is a much bigger purpose behind what we are doing, and that bigger purpose can be a large organization which is becoming a global hyperscaler, and the moment you start connecting, which is something which is visible to us in the last couple of years, that we are ending up creating something strategically important for the country, that gives a different high to all of us. And that is something which keeps our management motivated. So my job, frankly speaking, I mean, I have got so many of leaders who are much bigger expert than me in their respective functions they are doing, and they are the ones who are running the company. But my job as a leader all the time is to keep on communicating that bigger purpose to all of them, and keep on channelizing their energy towards that bigger purpose. And that is what I think is very, very important. When you are dealing with ecosystem like AI and data center cloud, which is changing so fast. You are reading and seeing the implications of this whole thing in the world scene every single day.
Yeah.
So how you keep on connecting that purpose, what we are doing, why we are doing, becomes very, very important.
Well said. That's a learning for leadership. With that, we move on to the rapid fire.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a few questions.
Okay.
You have less than 10 seconds to respond to them.
Okay.
Ideally, I won't expect more than a sentence of a response.
Okay.
Shall we start?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So one word for the state of India's AI today.
I'll give two words: awakening and aspirational.
Awakening and aspirational. Good. The most overhyped phrase in AI right now.
That AI will take all the jobs.
Which won't happen.
It will overtake human capabilities.
It won't.
Yeah.
So people should be rest assured.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
GPUs or talent, which is India's real bottleneck.
GPU and talent both right now. Long term, deep tech talent.
Deep tech talent.
Long term, because GPUs will become hygiene. Deep tech talent will be long term. Yeah.
Build it in India or buy it faster from abroad. Your instinct.
Both. Strategically built in India, but pragmatically also buy from outside.
Nice. Why do you think so?
I think I explained that till that time you are able to keep a control on what you're using.
Yeah.
Because let's be practical, the technologies which the largest technology companies have built in the world, Amazon, Azure, Google's, IBM's, NVIDIA, you can't really replicate overnight, but you need those technologies for your benefit. So how you are able to use those technologies, but keeping them within your control, that is the pragmatic view of sovereignty. Yeah.
And my final question, finish this line for me. In 10 years, India's AI will be?
India will be one of the largest AI producing and consuming country in the world in terms of the AI infrastructure, which will be serving India's need and also global needs, in terms of the variety of the models and agents and agentic AI use cases, and the way we are applying AI use cases to create maximum impacts on maximum number of citizens. I think that's what will be very, very unique about India.
Very, very. Yeah. I hope everything that you just said comes true.
Yeah.
And this journey, certainly, your world and your business model is really, really exciting. And I think the contribution that you are doing, not just for building a company of your size and scale, but the contribution that you're doing to make sure that India achieves its desired sovereignty through your efforts is highly commendable. With that being said, we come to the end of today's episode, but it has been my pleasure knowing more about you, knowing more about Yotta. I wish you guys great success with the upcoming IPO.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as you continue to innovate in your space, you're only going to accelerate the India's sovereignty story. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sunny, for having me here. Thank you. I just enjoyed the conversations.
This was very informative. It was very informative. Thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, the AI man of India, the data center man of India, the Sunil Gupta. This could not have been more unfiltered than what we saw. You heard the man speak, and you also know what opportunity India has ahead of us as we move very quickly in the direction of being sovereign, as we move very quickly to be one of the leaders in the AI space and beyond. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so that I can bring more such meaningful conversations to your screen. Until then, this is me signing off. Thank you.